As Bruce remains quarantined in his house, he gets a call from his father stating that he sent his dogs after Betty. Before Bruce can respond, who should knock at his door but good old Trollface, doing what he does.
Talbot.
Yeah.
You're making me angry.
He's gonna send a line. He looks like Shrek. I'll admit, they had the right idea, but it really doesn't look good. Even for the Hulk, he just looks so cartoony and out of place. Anyway, Hulk gets out, and before you know it, he finds Betty. Why do you look like the Green Giant? Before anything awkward can continue, what should arrive but... Oh, you have got to be kidding me. They look worse than Hulk! Part of me thinks I could take this action sequence seriously. But when the likes of a gamma-radiated poodle is on your film, it's really hard not to laugh. Hulk kills the dogs and turns back to normal. But he still cannot stop himself from feeling the rage. You know, call me crazy, but I think the filmmakers went a little overboard with the anger issue. I mean, I can understand the idea of having deep-seated and ball-up problems, but I feel like they're putting way too much into it, and it makes it feel very unrealistic. After Bruce's episode, Betty is scared, and so she calls her father, and you could probably guess what the good General... How shocking. General Ross sends Bruce to a disclosed location, where he wants to lock him up for the rest of his life, but Betty wants to help him. Of course, now she should realize that if she really wanted to help him, maybe she shouldn't have called her dad, somebody who has clear issues with the guy. Meanwhile, David Banner is back at the labs, giving himself a dose of gamma radiation. Now you might be wondering to yourself if this is a Hulk villain. Well, it is. Yet, though it is obvious, the filmmakers went out of their way to really not establish it. From what I've learned, they actually had several different ideas for the villain, and I guess this is the end result, leading to a mixed combination of different Hulk villains. I don't think it really works in this situation. Bruce and Betty explore the area where they used to live as kids in order to help with Bruce's trauma. They explore his old house, as well as furthering into his issues, and doing all of this in a scene that goes absolutely nowhere. Unfortunately, the project has been taken over by Trollface, as he wants to harvest Bruce's DNA for profit. You know, one of the standard things you would find in a Hulk story.
Aren't you feeling a little angry? After all, you've only got me to play with now that Betty's dumped you and gone back to Berkeley.
You know, call me simple-minded, but if I was in a room with a man who could turn into a 9-foot behemoth and squash people's heads like they were melons, the last thing I would do is piss him off. Unless I had a death wish. While Talbot is studying on Bruce, Betty is confronted by David Banner, as he says he is willing to give himself up. And let's emphasize, give himself up. So he reflects on what happened all those many years ago. Bottom line, tried to kill Bruce, and in the process, killed his wife instead. And sure enough, Bruce is thinking of the same thing, which causes him to Hulk out. And sure enough, he gets out of the container without a problem.
Under control, General. I'll let you know if we need you.
Unacceptable. Unseat your asses down there immediately. I want a full court evacuation now. I'm shutting you down.
Wait, stop! Just stop! You can only push this effect for so long! Oh, sure, it looks creative, and maybe in some retrospect, it could have worked, but not with this kind of film. See, if I was doing one thing while doing something else entirely at the same time, that's not what I would call creative. That is what I would call annoying. And again, you could argue that they went with this decision to make the movie seem like more of a comic. Well, that's all good. But the thing about comics is that the images don't move all at once. If they did, I assure you, it'd be very distracting, as well as very, very strange. So Talbot tries with all his might to get a sample, and what happens is honestly one of the best moments in the entire film. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was the fuck up of the week. Now, what happens next in a few sequences can be summed up in a few words. Hulk smash this, Hulk smash that. Hulk running, Hulk reflecting, Hulk jumping. Hulk takes some time to look at the beauty of the desert, and Hulk starts smashing again. Is it bad? No. Because that's what the Hulk does. But it really is all the same thing, so I'm just saving on some time. Hulk makes his way to the city, and does, what I guess is, one of the few heroic deeds he does in the entire film, which leads to him getting thrown from the atmosphere, which then leads to one of the most confusing scenes in the entire film.
Puny humans. Hulk only saves with mock razors.
After the in-depth look into Hulk's mind, his rampaging comes to a stop, thanks to Betty.
You found me.
You weren't that hard to find.
Yes, I was.
No, you weren't. You were blatantly... Oh, you mean in a deep kind of way. But before you can believe that the film is coming to an end, there is one more confrontation to be dealt with. Because David Banner is so caring, he reveals that he needs Bruce's DNA to sustain himself. You know, being so father-like.
Think of all the harm they've done to you, to me, to humanity. And know this, that we can make them and their flags and their anthems and their governments disappear in a flash. You and me.
Does anyone know what he's going on about? That's what I thought. You know, I think that sums it up very nicely. Apparently, David Banner can't take anymore and decides to electrocute himself, taking the short way out of this film. Or he could be absorbing the energy. So he uses his energy to use his power to change from one villain into another. This, of course, leads to a fight between the two, and I have to say, it's not that bad. Could be longer, but not bad. It comes to a head where David gets Hulk right where he wants him. So Hulk gives him exactly what he wants, and gives him the power of imagery, which then leads him to turn into a giant bubble! I think it's time to end this review. A year passes where Betty still works at the lab. There, she is contacted by her father, wondering if she knows anything about Bruce.
The last person I would want him to come to, because as much as I miss him, I loved him.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Betty. I am so sorry.
Now, if you excuse me, I'm gonna go star in Ghost Rider. Meanwhile, in South America, there is a man distributing medicine. There, he gets provoked by some thugs. And I think you can figure out the rest.
Me está enojando. No le gustaría verme enojado.
What is that supposed to mean? I do look like the Green Giant from the commercials. Oh. Well, I can see why people didn't like this film. I will admit this. At the film's core, it could have been a good origin movie. It had the depth and some details to make it watchable. But there are two major things that kill this movie. One, the fact that the script is executed poorly, and two, the goddamn cinematography. I don't know why the filmmakers went with this direction, but it was not needed. If this was dealing with something like Sandman, then maybe it would have worked. But not for the Hulk. It just made the movie distracting and confusing. this is one of the few times the successor is indeed superior than the predecessor. If you had an option of either watching Hulk or The Incredible Hulk, watch The Incredible Hulk. Hell, even watch the TV series. Incredible Hulk is easier to understand and makes for a better superhero film. And again, after watching this film, it's not that hard to make a better superhero movie. You know, come to think of it, I think this would have made the film better. I'm Timdiana, and I just endured it. Oh, by the way, next week is X-Men: The Last Stand.